Good night and welcome. This is Soup City Sins, Sheltered or Saved, Episode 3. Religiously Bestial and Other Sins. And I'm your storyteller, your narrator, and your number one fan, Nobody. And we shall begin post haste, if not sooner. Thank you. Alright, sounds like a plan. That being the case, with us, we're going to jump in, picking up moments after we last left. And as we do, first things first, and primarily most important, thank you all for taking part in this hobby. Play is important, and my thanks are absolutely eternal. They are the immortal foundation. I am very appreciative of your time, your efforts, and your energies. And without a shadow of a doubt, this is officially Soup City Sins, Sheltered or Saved, Episode 3, entitled let me put on my announcer voice, as it were, entitled Religiously Bestial and Other Sins. Let's do a alphabetical dive in to where we were moments before. And where that was for Aaron is this. As a loyal, upstanding member of the Banu Hakim, he's not a schismatic. He doesn't believe in the fringe theories and cults that abound. He believes in the maintenance of the idea of Chicago as the capital of the ivory tower in the contiguous United States. So things and moments and kindred and persons that destabilize the very foundation of the firmament is problematic. 3.5 years ago, a rogue member who was supposedly trained and reared on the mountain went on a spree that, while no one can actually prove, no one can put their finger on, everyone who's anyone knows. There was the massacre of the associated will workers who operated out of a Buddhist temple on the north side of Chicago. There was the slaughtering of a paid protectee, and word spread, and there were agents abounding. There was an entire cadre of Banu who went looking for this particular kindred, and he evaded, dispatched, and otherwise minimize their effective ability to do anything more than watch him laugh in their faces. This particular Banu, a Mr. Hunt, was purportedly back in Chicago, and he was reported to be following a new queen mother of the Bahari. Because they are not part of the blood disco, that means that she is not a potential target. But he killed brothers and sisters. He dispatched members that will never see the night again. And while there is no official edict to act, to move, there is a personal reason to, at the very minimum, find out his comings and goings for when the word is handed down. So you find yourself at the Cult of Helena the Hellenes, at their newly refurbished and renovated temple in the West Town neighborhood of Chicago. It was a former bank, a temple to America's exceptionalism, its capitalistic national fervor, its spirit and drive towards, well, let's just be honest, colonialism. And they turned that temple to America's true God, the almighty dollar, into a temple of worship of Lilith, the original mother, the original gardener. And so you find yourself heading towards that particular temple. Unfortunately, time being what it is, moving across the city, traffic getting in the way, the night doing what the night does, running away from you as quickly as it is capable and able. You find yourself entering behind Hestia. Miriam, would you be so kind as to describe what you guys look like from behind?
Booty.
I mean, yes. Miriam is rather pretty to look at from the behinds, and the fronts, and the side. Take your pick. She is like, she'll probably be wearing like a short sleeve shirt that's fairly tight fitted, kind of midriff pair of jeans. She usually has on like a thigh holster that acts sort of like as a purse for her. She is covered in tattoos, like neck to toe. Basically anywhere you see skin, there's a tattoo. Has silverish hair. It might be pulled back into a ponytail right now.
Okay.
And Hess is almost the exact opposite. She's like 5 nothing, and kind of looks like extra on the movie The Craft. It's supposed to be. Currently, she's in a but she's very curvy. She's like petite and curvy.
Okay.
Long black hair that's currently kind of like mid-back, pulled back, and like loose waves. She wears glasses, but you can't see them from behind, obviously. But basically what she's wearing is kind of like a men's tailcoat. Like it's short in the front and then long in the back with the tails. Because otherwise it would impede her movement. It's a dark blue, and then she's got on one of those long black broomstick skirts and a pair of like pretty high gothy type boots underneath. And yeah, that's pretty much the test.
All right, so I'm walking up on cocoa skin, you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please finish.
No, that was it. You were asking about the skin, right? Her complexion.
It feels like I'm walking up behind two women who really enjoy the movie Nightmare Before Christmas. That's just what my mental image is here.
It is far worse than that, because in their company are an additional 2 growing into 4 and 5 additional statuesque Amazon-like models, each of them with a certain class of dress, each of them clearly being of a mind to dress to impress, and their ensembles, be it pantsuit or skirt and blouse or dress or jeans, or as one of the extras from the L Word, are designed to attract the eye, to stir the loins. Luckily, Aaron is beyond that consideration. However, that is very much what you are walking into this temple behind.
Ah. He came here for business. He's dressed in his normal street clothes, and as he approaches this den of depravity and sees before him what is effectively sculpted examples of mankind, he just gets this impression that he is severely out of place. He looks like kind of down at his blue jeans and his gray undershirt and the leather overjacket. He just sighs and mutters to himself, I look like somebody's dad who's here to get them in trouble.
And in trouble it is, because before the gaggle of ladies, women, disperse from in front of you as they move through the crowd, and those two go there, talk to that group over there, and those over there to the right, and there's a gathering of people. You watch as the queen mother of the Cult of Helena, a tall, statuesque Amazonian blonde, begins offering a hand motion towards calming the crowd. And as she's beginning to slowly calm the crowd, there on her right, scanning the crowd, is in fact Alexander Hunt himself, clean shaven, his hair pulled back just over his ears. And if you were being honest, he does not look like a threat. He's only about 6 feet tall and roughly 180, 200 pounds. But the way that he methodically sections off and moves his gaze across the crowd is worrying. It's almost as if he could see beneath the clothing, can see where each weapon might be, or who might actually be the living weapon.
All right. Just doing that periodic flick of the eyes over as he's attempting to blend with the crowd while also keeping an eye on his target. If you stare too much, they'll notice. If you look too little, you won't know enough. Meanwhile, going with the motions, following the line as it moves, and wondering how exactly he is supposed to blend in while looking like a dude with a mortgage.
Would you be so kind? I'm taking it that you have Auspex, correct?
I do indeed.
Does he have heightened senses, or does he have sense the unseen?
It is Sense the Unseen this go around. I decided to slip it up.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to roll? I'm taking it that he's utilizing the fullness of his abilities.
Of course.
Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus Auspex, please? And while that roll is happening, the touch of Edith is an interesting thing. Edith is one of the oldest Nosferatu in the entirety of the Chicagoland area, barring the Nosferatu primogen, Khalid. She is the penultimate example of what a Nosferatu artisan might be. Her skill and craft are what the Tremere based their brands for the Thin Blood and the Punished upon. Her skill at affecting the flesh of the dead and her eye for art blending together to make her, in fact, the rumored painted lady. Yet her touch, the rough sandpaper-like palm of her skin, hardened and calloused in life, turned into something completely erstwhile while dead, is unlike the touch of any other being you have ever been in contact with. It's as if someone took a lion's tongue, all of those million and billion little barbs, and made a human-like hand out of.
Oh.
So as she greets you, Miriam and Hestia, what, if anything, is the conversation as she eases behind you, letting you know that she is in fact there?
Miriam will turn and plaster on a giant smile. She is genuinely happy to see this person. Mistress.
I am so glad that you...
It's been far too long.
It has been. But luckily, you've landed well with... And she looks at Hestia. Now, Hestia, is Hestia presently utilizing her sense the unseen, or is she maintaining and remaining here in this world?
Yeah. With the amount of people here, she doesn't trust the sense the unseen. It's better to be present and be able to navigate the things around you right now.
Okay. The reason why I asked is because instead of her bat-like, large, craniumed, almost unibrowed seeming, you merely have a averagely handsome older woman. Her silvered hair swept back, causing her forehead to seem a little large. Her large blue eyes, a little roomy around the edges. Wrinkles denoting that she has survived at least 7 decades on this earth, but still is firmly on this side of handsome. No wisp of hair tufting from a mole or anything like that, but there's this odd sense about her, a almost too good to be true average normalness about how large and tall she is. She is tipping the scale at roughly 6'3". She is somewhere in the neighborhood of between 250 and 275 solid. There's no paunch, no morbidity of flesh. There is just a solidness to her standing before you that seems dangerous. And just like that, you get an idea as to who the painted lady is, because even as she stands here as this normalized seeming of herself, up her arms, across her neck, are effectively the Sistine Chapel of tattoos. There is a piece clearly done by a toreador, a artiste of the furthest skill and talent level, someone who clearly would have been marked with the madness of genius. The detail and the depth. There is a portion of the tattoo at her elbow, at the bend of her elbow, that if you stare into, you actually get vertigo as if you're falling into it. There is as she speaks, one of the tattoos on her neck, which is in fact the original serpent who spoke to Eve. It seems to be moving and offering you the fruits of the tree. There is a dragon that, as she moves and greets and moves her hand from Miriam's shoulder to better embrace her, it looks as if the dragon is working its way across her forearm. There are several baker's dozens of smaller tattoos interwoven through the tapestry that is the entirety of her flesh, and yet all done with the same skilled and dedicated hand. If that was done on another person, if that was done on anyone, it's clear that they sat for hours on end. Easily a 3, 4, 5 day session.
Since Tess is usually so close to the ground anyway, she just very gently lowers her gaze, so she's looking at covered clothing, like instead of skin, but kind of keeping her head up so that it looks like she's looking up through her eyelashes. But she is not liking the sensation of the moving tattoos at all.
But Miriam seems perfectly at ease with them.
She does. Aaron, however, is another matter entirely. You were saying, Hestia?
Comfort is reminding her. Oh, I think the discomfort is reminding her of the time that Miriam drew on the paper and the paper came to life. This is like that, and it's bothering the absolute fuck out of her.
Oh yeah, the beating heart.
Yes. It very much is similar in essence to that. And as Hestia and Miriam are in their own ways accustomed to the oddities of Chicago, they're accustomed to the magic that happens every day. They are inured to the smaller aspects of it. Aaron is not. He's been away from home. He's just returned. It is so much going on here that he warily keeps his gaze bent. And it's not just the gaze. It is his hearing. It is the smelling. It is the touching. It is the sensing of things that are beyond the average person's understanding or ability to understand. And as he scans the crowd, it feels as if the walls are closing in, as if they're inching closer by the second. It feels as if there is a weight across his shoulders. He's felt similar in various places around the world. They're typically always actually graveyards, not cemeteries. In consecrated ground, in holy spaces, in certain churches, in certain mosques, in certain temples. Hell, there was even an ashram one time where he felt the pressure of the wide world that abuts this one. He did not expect nor come prepared to feel that here. He understood and knows that this was a former bank. There's no way that someone actually blessed this space. There's no way that there's several handful of consecrated bodies or saints buried in this place, or at least there shouldn't be. And yet very much it feels as if the weight of the spiritual world is bearing down on him.
Oh, fun. Yeah, so being aware of this new sensation that is entirely out of place, seeing his quarry here, his eyes picking and choosing throughout the crowd like some kind of predatorial bird. He's getting the sensation that, like most things in this world, there is more to be seen than is presented. And if Hestia and Miriam are directly in front of him, is he also viewing this interaction with the veiled individual?
Yes, she's not veiled. She is just a tall, wide, strong, matronly woman, easily in her 7th or 8th decade of life. She is tattooed from neck to fingertip, and you are sure those aren't the only places that she's tattooed either.
No, that's the tattoos are what I was referencing with the veil. A covering of sorts that doesn't necessarily obstruct. Do I recognize the one they're speaking to?
Yes, let's go with that. You've been by the Painted Lady before. It is a local landmark. It is one of the few places that survived the purge of those who were associated with the disco. Partially because it was no longer operated and run specifically by the Painted Lady herself, but was in fact run by Miss Ashton.
Oh. Okay. I'm aware of the Painted Lady. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to squirrel this away into my notes right now. Alright, then I guess my, continuing with my gig currently, I'm gonna try and keep the eyes of all of those renowned individuals off me as long as I can, and just try and listen in and garner and investigate, really.
Okay.
As I'm moving about. Let me go back to my PDF and denote this.
As you're spying Aaron having snuck in there at the end, as you've turned to speak with the Painted Lady, that's another curious sort of situation. You know for a fact that, well, you believe for a fact that he is not a member of the Cult of Helena, and there is a chance that maybe you were wrong. Maybe the cult, like most cults, are all around you.
Oh yeah, that definitely catch her attention.
You said I definitely caught your attention?
Yeah, that would definitely catch Esther's attention. She's like, what is he doing here? Would he be close enough to touch?
You can make him close enough to touch.
Yeah, no, me just trying to slowly sift my way through the crowd. Oh, Aaron! Hello there!
No, she wouldn't call him out like that because obviously, like I said, she doesn't know whether he belongs here or whether he's new here. So she doesn't want to put that pressure on him, which is why she's trying to find out why he's here. So as Aaron kind of turns to pull away, she looks at me and, give me a sec, and then, excuse me, and she just says it to the Painted Lady too, because she doesn't want to be rude. And then she kind of like steps towards Aaron and just like catches his jacket sleeve like a little kid and kind of gives it a tug to get him to look back at her with a raised brow, like, what's up?
Miriam will just nod at her.
Yeah, at the unexpected physical contact, his turn to view what the hell just happened is a lot more swift than a calm individual's would be, but he visibly relaxes upon seeing that it's Hestia that has snagged him, and he'll just, I'm going to go ahead and initiate double talk, if that's fine, nobody.
Sure.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Keep in mind, and just for, while we normally don't address the tactical aspect of certain things, we let whatever happen. Being as Aaron is a former intelligence operative, double talk is a great tool, and he is 100% aware that in this crowd of cultists are several, at least 5 members of the Clan of the Rose.
So it'll be like firing up a signal flare.
Maybe, maybe not, but just so that he's aware.
All right. I get what you're saying. All right. Well, then, as Hestia turns him and asks him what he's doing, he'll be like, matter of. He kind of glances around to see if there are any eyes on them as he continues to speak. Just a bit of business. And you?
Funnily enough, same, but probably not the same sort of business you're up to.
Oh. If you're not too hung up on it, perhaps we can compare notes.
Okay.
Though not right here. He just kind of points to the ground right in front of them, and his eyes still just panning about.
Yeah, I'm not the smartest, honestly. But yeah, I'm sure as the night goes on, there'll be a pairing off or grouping off. Have you ever been to one of these before? Do you know what they do here?
This specifically? No. Clubs? Yes.
She's kind of laughing. Caligula?
Caligula?
I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah. How does that relate to... Oh, alright. Well, that's...
And
I suppose I'll certainly see a few things that I might want to forget by the end of the night. Or we say Nobu? Sorry about that.
And no sooner as you two are whispering in regards to what this is, no sooner do the words Caligula escape your mouth. They float across the wind as if there was a dinner bell summoned. Now, the blood disco was targeted for its wildness, for its orgiastic, unbridled release, for both the gathered mortals as well as the gathered kindred. Since its demise, Miriam has been building a collective that have been operating in a similar manner, though with much more refinement to it. Instead of the simple, unbridled, undirected release of pain and pleasure as pain, and the just blood showered moments of forgetfulness, Miriam's have been more catered affairs. They've been more quiet, getting together in a booth here or having a quiet moment there, tastefully enjoying oneself with full release without full spectacle. So Miriam has been prepared or accustomed to both varieties, so this is not quite that different from that. She's braced. Hestia, having visited the blood disco on one of their tamer nights, is a little braced. She envisions Caligula. The slamming closed of the doors sends a ripple through the crowd. There are cheers, outright full-on wolf whistles, calls to arm, and as Claire, still motioning for quiet, up close and personal, because at the end of the day, it's all about your level of absorption. Whether you want to hear the sermon or not is not her responsibility. This is a place for beauty. So even in the excess, there is a outpouring of, for lack of a better word, voguing and walking, and there's a pose off happening at the exact same time as she's beginning to give the liturgy for the cult. She's speaking of only through pain are we elevated. Helena was born of the line of Lilith to punish the kindred who bear the mark of Cain. Therein triggers a fight and flight. That word, those two, spoken aloud in mixed company, it is enough to cause a panic at the center of your beings. Each of you all, even the blood disco, was never that unbridled. Even the private engagements where there were mixed company were never that blatant. The offerings, the members of the Baham that were not part of the kindred community were never part of the liturgy when those words were utilized. Yet here, Claire, the new Queen Mother, the Reverend Mother of the Cult of Helena, is boldly proclaiming and speaking into the crowd. And you hear her plainly. You hear her directly. And the mortals around you are cheering and offering their prayers up. Some of them are doing the whole double hand absorption of energy. Some are hands crossed across the chest and bouncing up and down as they take the power of this moment into themselves. And you three kindred hear Claire call that out.
Hestia, you? What the fuck? What is this? You know a little bit more about this than I do.
This is new. This isn't normal. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh.
Miriam will glance up at the painted lady. She is perfectly happy with this.
She's smiling and nodding and watching the crowd. It is like watching your grandma enjoy her football game. It is daytime soap worthy moment. Truly at peace. Truly at ease.
He'll just kind of have a moment of realization as he looks from Claire up on stage back to Hestia and go, no, actually, this is fine. What we heard and what was said. He just kind of does the hand gesture of division. You know that thing I do where I talk between the lines?
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That, as far as I can tell, that's what's happening here. So, no need to panic yet.
Which is a worrisome factor. Because if they are so blatantly using kindred abilities, it is so much more than what the Blood Disco had ever managed to get up to. While they are nominally covered, because they're not sharing anything with any unknown entity, yet, and it is so much worse because there and there and there and there, in several places throughout the worshipful, there are kindred bearing fang, eyes going that hazy sort of lost in the moment of preparing to consume. There are humans nipping and biting each other. Across the room, just to the left of where Claire is on the central dais, raised 2 steps above the crowd, there is a full-fledged flogging session being carried out with a cat o' nine tails made with human bones. There are the start to a very consensual, non-consensual bit of play happening. There are persons being strapped to the walls as you all suss and sort out what is actually being said and what is actually being conveyed. Yet the hedonism at the Blood Disco was contained because they were weekly events in public spaces. This is a private event, and so all of the guardrails, all of the safe for public protections no longer exist. The precautions taken because the Blood Disco were weekly events and monthly events, and they were held in public places, and they had to be scheduled, they had to be balanced, and you had to operate in public. There was a certain decorum with even their hedonistic releases. This is so much more than any of that. This is full out, well, this is simply just full out. Allow your mind to wander as your eyes do across the crowd, the flesh bearing itself, the kindred bearing themselves to the flesh, and the full embracing of pleasure as pain, the full excoriating of doubts and considerations, the giving over of power, autonomy over oneself to the excess of another.
All right, so me and Hessie are standing here talking while the entire building just descends into a layer of hell.
She leans next to Aaron and whispers as best she can, because again, height difference. Damien is gonna have fucking kittens if he ever finds out about this.
Yeah. Something about nigh unrestricted, kind of does the gesture for all of this. Doesn't make me think that he'll enjoy it.
And speaking of shouldn't enjoy it, the 2 years that Edith was on the run, it is clear that her superficial surfing along the surface of what the Bahari were and are dissipated. She holds you like one would a teddy bear, a security blanket, but you are a security blanket against the hunger that's dancing just beneath her eyes. You, Miriam, are aware that before the implosion of the Blood Disco and those associated with it, that Edith had found religion. She had found the Bahari. She had embraced what they were and the message and the truth and all the praising and praises for Lilith. But she was still very much as patient with it and herself as she could be, keeping it right at the edge where understanding and belief drifted over into blind faith. She hovered right there on that balance of the two. Even as she acted aesthetically in regards to pursuing the truths of what Lilith was to the world, not just to the kindred. Even as she plumbed the depths and she researched and she asked and she questioned and she probed, she didn't cross over into blind faith. Watching her here now, even though she's not actively engaging, you can feel the hunger wafting off of her in waves. You are the only thing keeping her from diving in, as you are sure that she's dived in countless times before.
Seeing that, Miriam will step in and kind of snuggle up to her like a daughter would to a mother.
The act of attempting to douse the fire with your body, the cock blocking, if you will, works in the fact that she hisses as if she stubbed her toe, and she smiles down at you, her human seeming wavering a small bit. It is always a pleasure to see you, Miriam. I don't believe we'll be around very much. There's one thing more I need to do before. If you'll excuse me, I need to make the acquaintance of a newly old friend. I'll meet you at the shop tomorrow or later tonight, depending on how long this takes. I'm so glad that you've embraced the faith. And she tries to excuse herself to move across the room.
Miriam will rather impulsively lift herself up on her tippy toes and give her a peck on the cheek and go about her business.
She touches her cheek before disappearing into the crowd. It's ridiculously impossible to believe that she actually disappears in the crowd, but she very much does. There are still enough women and men at and above the 6-foot mark, many wearing heels and platforms, and some even on all fours, rising to at least mid-chest for Hestia. It is a hugely awkward thing as some individuals break out the stilts, or another is riding on a swing on their belly, moving from one thing to the next, accompanying a whack as a paddle or some other oblong shaped thing strikes them. It is sweat and vitae in the air. There is the scent of blood wafting across the room, and it's not the sort of waft that would easily go unnoticed. It's not a few droplets being atomicized. It is a full-on, someone is actively bleeding, and it's not just someone. There are several individuals in the crowd actively bleeding into the space, because that is the level of play that they've gotten to already.
Miriam isn't particularly peckish, but she will, wait for someone to walk by and grab them. Not intending to have any nibbles, but, a little bit of play.
Would you be so kind as to roll a 1d10? The number is more important than any success, so that's what we're looking for, because there is a wide assortment of individuals here tonight, many of whom burn through dollars by the thousands just going out, some of whom who can barely scrape together $5 in a row. Many still use actual cash for most of their purchases. Others whose only lifeline is a string of zeros and ones electronically held in bank accounts they can't afford. It is a width and breadth as wide as the imagination in regards to these individuals gathered here tonight. And Hestia, would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your intelligence plus occult, and anyone else who has an occult of at least 2, go ahead and roll if you would like.
I wish the temptation to put it on there, given how many times I've just not had the occult necessary, was there. It just slipped.
You said intelligence occult, or what's occult?
Intelligence occult. So, the funny thing about most cults and many older religions is that for years, for decades, for half centuries and more, many of them and most of them syncretize to whichever religion is already in power. Which is the reason why ancient Christianity, the Abrahamic faiths, coincide so often with one another because of the area of the world where they move from cult to religion. And it's the reason why later cults, later religions, also syncretize and hide themselves among the most dominant religion, i.e. the cult that has risen to the point where they actually own land and property and have a voice in the body politic. One of the many aspects of the Baham and the Bahari is that not only do they syncretize with the Shintoist, Buddhist, and other Asiatic religions, but they also syncretize with the Abrahamic faiths, your Judaism, your Catholicism, your Christianity as a whole, your Islamism. They have syncretized to the point where many of the holy days blend with the high feast days as well. And as you all watch what is unfolding around you, the mind wonders as it does, and the connection is unfortunately made. All Saints Day doesn't mean much to most people now. All Saints Day isn't really celebrated too often, but it was back in days of yore. It's was called the Solemnity of All Saints, and it was a feast day. It was a day where excess and forms of worship were carried out, where the body was satiated and the measures of faith plumbed. And as you all come to that realization, you understand what's happening here. This is a rededication, a re-sanctification towards Lilith through her servant Helena. The excesses you see here are in fact just that. They are a religious orgy, extolling the virtues of pleasure through pain, and through pain there's enlightenment. It is the extolling and understanding that even in the most horrid of moments, beauty is all that matters. It is very much the... And therein lies the problem. Not that you've all, are adherents or hierophants to the Cult of Helena, but you also understand that many and most aspects of that particular cult, that fringe belief in the service of Lilith, was the act of creation, the act of giving forth birth. And for kindred, dot,
oh, fuck.
dot.
Oh, fuck. Oh, that's not good.
I'm sure Aaron and Hess look at each other at the same time and go, fuck. Do we try to stop it? Like, can we try to stop it? don't...
Well, as far as I saw, the doors are closed.
Pound.
Look, I came here for a very... He darts his eyes around once more, looking for a squirry specific reason, but I am not above... well... But I'm not above adding extra things to my list of to-do. I don't... They did close the doors, but I don't know if they locked them.
Hess is gonna head towards Miriam, like stage whispering. Remember why we're here. We have a thing to do.
Does it mean we can't have a little bit of fun first?
It does. It does mean we can't have a little bit of fun first, because you don't understand what they're doing. They are going to embrace most of these people, which makes them illegal embraces.
We should all embrace each other, says the arm candy in Miriam's grasp, as they, because at this point, even nude, it is indecipherable whether they are male aspected or female aspected. Their chest bare as it is, and their skin to skin contact with every portion of Miriam that they can touch still does not reveal which end or which portion of the spectrum that they rely on. But what is easily revealed is that their pupils are as big as saucers, and they are lightly kissing and caressing and stroking every portion of Miriam's flesh that is not covered.
Miriam will snake her hand up, gently caressing the neck and grabbing them by the back of the hair and pulling them away for a moment.
They pull against the just enough to cause that toe curling pain to start at the edge of their understanding of the moment.
Miriam will grin, look at Hestia, it's like, yes, there are some certain differences to what I'm used to. I'm sure there'll be more than a few that are passing through tonight.
Nope, gotta stop it. Nope, this cannot happen. I cannot be witness to this. I cannot be part of this. And she's all 5 footer with her little flappy coat goes storming through the crowd.
Just immediately distracted by the sound of a fucking horse neighing in the distance. Walks over to Hestia, puts a hand on her shoulder. Hey, did you hear that?
Impeding Hestia's step was a great thing, because at her height, as she took the step to move forward to storm towards Claire and Alex, who are at the center of this moment, 2 men go rolling past, each trying to get ahead of the others. They're bonded together hip to hip. It is a literal 4-legged race, quickly followed by their competitors.
Oh my god, what the fuck am I looking at? Alright, well, looks over to Miriam. I take it you don't see an issue with this?
Oh, I see lots of issues. But again,
Why don't you
no
expect
point in
it?
not having a little fun first. Oh, that's an excellent idea. She'll wink at Aaron.
Just gives the sighing shake of the head as he turns his attentions back to Hestia.
Does Hestia shake off Aaron to go charging Claire and Alex?
When he kind of grabs her shoulder, she kind of stops and goes, "Don't you understand? I have to stop this."
Yeah, no, I just didn't want you to get ran over by the Mantar.
I don't know what to do. Okay, sure, let's go.
And he'll just follow on after her, I guess, as we move deeper in.
Moving through the crowd is... You understand what the salmon are like when they attempt to swim upstream. There is a force that is part of a conjoined hallucination that everyone save you are sharing. A unbridling of the soul, a releasing of every pent-up frustration of one's workday, one's family life, one's social life, all of that emotional pain being made manifest through the pleasure of the moment and the almost mesmerized aspect of all of these souls releasing themselves at once. And as you all cover the first 5 feet and it taking far longer than it should, then the next 5 feet, so you're 10 feet further from where you and Miriam were conversing, you all feel the crowd pushing back from you all as the clop of horseshoes are heard across the marble floor as 4 large war horses are led in. Each one a different example of what someone's nightmare of a overly muscled, violent horse would be. As they're led in, literally harnessed by ropes connected to both of their forelegs and their rear legs, as well as around their neck, they nip and attempt to bite and purchase any portion of flesh from those nearest them. And they're trotted out in front of Claire and Alexander. Some of you all know what happens next. Some of you all don't. The members of the crowd who have not been to this level of worship are all oohs and ahs. In the middle of their oohs and ahs, or their ouch, may I have another. Many of them are unsure what sort of horse show they are in for. Some are excited with the titillation of the illegal, the immoral, that they hope they will have to turn away from. Others, such as yourselves, who are aware what the next step is, are preparing themselves. Some are easing close enough to be just out of range of a bite or a kick. Others moving to the further edges. So the crowd is undulating against itself as several layers try to pull further away and others try to get closer and closer. You all are caught betwixt and between those two extremes.
Miriam will bring her prize in a little closer, bite his lip just enough to draw blood, but not to actually feed, and push him back and turn and do her best to swim through the masses. It's not like she hasn't done this before.
Is she trying to get to the war horses led out, or is she trying to get to Hestia and Aaron?
She is going to do her best to get ahead of Hestia and Aaron, because she vaguely knows where they're going to be heading to.
Okay, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and either leadership or persuasion? And Hestia and Aaron, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your stamina plus athletics?
Alrighty.
And that is persuasion.
Sorry, I have celerity and other stuff. Does that count, or should I just roll the other?
No, celerity just allows you to not lose your grace. You're not going to be falling off or being jostled off your feet. You could effectively run across the top of this crowd in a way that would reveal you are kindred without losing your balance. But it won't stop you, as you are in fact trapped within it, moving against it to get to, well, wherever it is that you're trying to get to. Blows and jostling that should knock you easily aside are merely just impeding you and Aaron's foot forward. You two are fighting against this crowd of believers who don't realize what lay ahead for them. They are lemmings, and not the real life actual lemmings, but the lemmings that were talked about leaping off the cliff simply because another did. They are the lemmings of myth, and as you all are about 15 feet from the war horses being trotted in a circle around Claire and Alex there in the center of things, Miriam is there in front of you. The worst thing is, even as she eases and oozes from the crowd, there's still fingertips trailing along her arm or across the nape of her neck, or otherwise trying to get a touch and share the moment, this connection that they all have.
Miriam will absolutely reach out and gently caress people as she walks by. Occasionally she'll grab someone and spin with them, just making her way through.
All right, so I suppose while we are fighting through the crowd at the end of King Kong, she is just in Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, it is that bothersome. There's a portion of everyone's pride that feels and understands their own initial and instinctual self-worth. Having a group of people who are so loving and attempting to pull at your clothing to get a touch, to get a taste, to get close to you is not the same as people pulling with you to get you ahead. Each of these individuals around you who are touching and sweating and groping and otherwise engaging in distraction through titillation. Make that self-worth shrink more and more, because it's hard to separate them appreciating you from them just needing to get the rocks off, from them just needing to find their own sense of pleasure. Hesha had been to the blood disco. This is that on meth. This is that dialed up to 20 times the acceptable maximum overdose levels. This is the Cult of Helena. Beauty through pain. Pleasure as pain. Pain as enlightenment. Release.
I think realizing that is the only reason Hess hasn't started punching people yet.
Oh, but they would like that.
So Miriam, as you catch up to and intercept Hestia and Aaron, is it just so that they can better enjoy the show that is in the offing, that is building up the excitement and titillation, thrumming and trilling through the crowd around you? Or is there another reason?
Well, you know, she's fully aware they have a job to do. But again, that doesn't mean she can't enjoy herself while she does it. Plus, you know, she's just kind of like, why is it taking them so long? It's not that difficult to get up here.
Oh.
So she's not actively trying to stop Hestia from getting to those two.
No.
So Hess, oh goody, it's the backup. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I imagine this is Michael Phelps, you know, just swimming in front of somebody who's treading water in the ocean and being like, why you acting like it's hard, bro?
Basically.
It very much is that, because as you all are right at the edge of where the war horses are being led in a circle around Claire and Alexander, the wooden sword that Alexander pulls is a monstrously savage looking thing. Most people don't fathom wood as an edged weapon. Most people don't consider wood anything more than at best a bludgeon, maybe something heavy, maybe a piece of, you know, a tree or a huge limb falls on you. It's bludgeoning damage. But the fact that he has an actual honed edged wooden sword is problematic, because there's only either you or the horses close enough. And as he steps forward with the sword and swings for all his might, you all are like the entirety of the first row of worshipful who you are fighting your way free of, splattered and covered in the viscera. You are front row at a Gallagher concert, except for instead of watermelons, it is a fine, cherished animal that you all, well, and as the droplets, the shower of viscera and blood cover you and the row of worshipful, it is 56 after the hour. Let's return 6 after. All right, folks, anybody back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Excellent.
Never left.
Hash, you're back.
She's been traumatized.
Right. She's never seen Miriam act like this. She's just like, what the fuck?
Indeed. Staring in abject horror.
Right?
Okay. So, picking up from the moment that the first and second wave of innards baptize you, there is a instinctual human response. There is a recoiling even as the inner intrusive voice of your beast rejoices, even as there is a gagging, there's a raise in the amount of endorphins released in that moment, and it's echoed through the crowd. The shocks of horror that are at the edges and sprinkled through like pepper are no comparison to the amount of horrible, very human, animalistic pleasure at seeing something that shatters and breaks most taboos that they've spent lifetimes learning and reinforcing on a daily basis. There is a theory, a philosophy in regards to the fall of empires, to the breaking down of societal norms, a philosophy that could be summed up with the tipping point. And that's where you all are. The physical releases around you, slackening in response to that eruption, further decline, and all of that pent up having been released, and all of those build-ups to even more explosions of endorphins and feel-good chemicals, and the physiological responses to being in such a high-stress situation quiet to a dull roar as the next war horse is led through. There's a question each of you must ask of yourselves. In the face of such religious barbarity, in the face of such stainings, the question is forward or back. There is a moment of realization as to what you are witnessing and what you are being a party to and part of. So as you all stand there at the outer edge of the first row, as you, like those around you, are being baptized into this, there is a choice and a decision.
Aaron doesn't half-ass things. He's gonna stop there. He said he was gonna stop this, so he's gonna stop this. Forward. Bestial seemed to be under the impression that if we get there, we can stop it, so...
Tess is heading for Claire, and she's not fucking around anymore.
Miriam, not being the fighter type, will kind of do her best to corral the humans back a little bit.
Yeah, no, but I definitely have got to change the way that my brain works for this particular situation.
So, in the middle of this orgiastic religious moment, you all are going to storm the high priest of this particular cultist sect with their bodyguard and all of their worshipful at hand. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
I mean...
I don't know that I would say Miriam's, storming the castle. She's trying to corral.
Here's the thing, like, do I or Hestia have a quick and direct line to the sheriff?
Direct?
Tess would have his number on her cell phone.
Direct? Yes. Quick? No. But I just want to make sure that that's what you three are doing, and so that we have that understanding. You are in the middle of their religious ceremony with all of the worshipful gathered, human and kindred, charging the high priest of this particular order with all eyes present.
I feel like I'm being asked if I am properly dumb.
Facts.
A little bit. I think so. Yeah, a little bit.
Which is why Miriam is fully on this side of the dead war horses.
All right. With the understanding that going forward is quite literally the uneducated and incapable man's decision, then yeah, Aaron's just going to... Hestia, I think rather than trying to do this directly, it's better for us to reach out and start trying to move his way back out of this cloistered group.
If Erin grabs Hess and tries to pull her back, I guess she's gonna go, but she's looking at Claire right in the eyes. So that she understands this has been noted. And it's going to cause hell.
So you all stay and watch the remainder of the war horses, the sacrifices.
Miriam
we're heading for the door.
Yeah,
Miriam is perfectly happy to, unless she gets drug out.
Miriam has made it very loud and clear that she is fine with vibing. Aaron's objective right now is to alert the sheriff, not babysit Miriam.
Yeah, Hess and Aaron, I think, are heading for the door.
Now thoroughly saturated with rapidly cooling and congealing horse blood.
So, and moving out of the press and warmth of the bodies, the cooling sweat and other fluids of enjoyment, the blood sticking to your clothes, your skin. There is a mental gagging facet of kindred kind that is unshakable, and that's the fact that the blood that is on your skin is in fact being hungrily absorbed and lapped by your beast. Of course, it doesn't drink everything from your skin, and it does not enough there for you to be satiated, but there is the knowledge and understanding as to how your beast works. You are very much, by extension, party to that wanton bloodlust. And as you, Hestia and Aaron, make it to the door, the third sacrifice falls. The uproar and the building of oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god only gets louder in its silence, and those who are outright vibrating with the excitement of being witness to such and no one bars your path exiting. There are a few others who weren't so close in, who are not splattered or covered with anything non-human, who are grabbing their purses and their trench coats or their overcoats and gathering up their parcels and undergarments and socks and stumbling forward, because this is not quite what they signed on for. And yet, not one person bars their path to exit. It is almost as if the agency and involvement is solely on those involved. And as you all make it outside of this temple to American capitalism, you can hear a actual rejoice echoing from inside, almost as if the building itself is alive and vibrating with a heartbeat. Standing outside on the street, what you've witnessed weighing in around the edges of your mind, bombarding other thoughts aside. We take an aside and we stare inside the building as Aaron and Hestia are outside on the steps leading up and into this former bank. As the last sacrifice falls, there's a line of carcasses cooling, each about 2 feet high from shoulder to shoulder. On the other side of that line, inside the ring of worshipfulness, Claire motions out towards the crowd, and there's one person who is in no state of undress, who is in fact completely covered, who moves forward, crawling over the sacrifices, getting their blood and their sweat and their stench, their fear and anger all over them as they make their way across. Instead of going around, they go over. The moment they make it over, there is a flash of Alex's sword once more. Quick, painless, over all too soon. And as their blood coats Alexander and changes Claire's white vestments into dark and darkening red, she steps forward, her hands joined edge to edge, brought to her lips as her fangs bite into her flesh. While every kindred is aware as to what she's doing, those humans gathered do not realize that as her hands are being brought to her lips and her fangs are, she's tearing open her flesh and offering it to the falling corpse. As it falls back and Alexander keeps it from falling atop the horses, she steps forward, smearing her hands across its lips, getting her vitae down its gullet. so very much vitae, and hard to discern from the human blood and horse matter that's splattered and covering folks. And as the wound on this sacrifice's neck heals, Alexander slits down the forearm, and those deacons and assistive members of the church step forward with small goblets about the size of shot glasses, absorbing the oozing and dripping vitae that is now being metastasized from blood into that mystical liquid that keeps you all moving. And they pass the cups back and back. And as the vitae slowly starts to move from a fountain to a dribble, Claire is there offering more, laying on her hands, and more vitae issues forth, and more cups are passed. Miriam, watching all of this is the first time that you've seen this level of worshipfulness towards Lilith. The act of birth happening in front of you. Because let's be perfectly honest, when you died, you weren't there when it happened. The pleasure of the kiss wiping away the details of that moment. But here you are able to witness in full bore the birth of another kindred. And their precious vitae offered as sacrament to those gathered. As you witness and watch this in the offing, this deeper, higher level, this fringe feast, is there anything that you are doing?
Nothing obvious. She is perfectly content to watch this bit. No babies for her, thank you.
I'm too young for that.
Right?
Time is an illusion created by man to explain their existence. It's been said once or twice or several 100,000 times back to the first person trying to understand some facet of existence. That same quizzical, sudden awareness of who and what you are is washing over the members of the coterie in various moments, in various ways at this moment. Miriam watching the power of faith change people. The power of actual earnest belief beyond reason take hold and drive individuals to an excess, breaking all other sorts of taboos, indulging in all manner of acts because they believe beyond all reason that their right to religious freedom is enough. While outside, Hestia and Aaron realize a line, a Rubicon for themselves, for their understanding of their duties to themselves, each other, and the city at large. It's impossible for Aaron to not feel the death inside. Each death is equivalent to a multi-megaton nuclear reaction into the spiritual world around it. There were at least 5 happening back to back to back, filled with fear and anger. It's potent stuff. So as you two stand outside, what is it you're doing?
Just kind of running his hand up across his face to wipe the blood away as best he can, and then slicking his hair back with it, just Okay. This is fucked. You... We need to get a hold of Damien. Now. Do you got your phone on you?
Hess nods, pulling it out of her pocket, firing off to the last number that her and Damien exchange, because she knows he goes through his burners regularly. So, what she says though is mass illegal embracing, and then gives the address. Please advise. I'm pretty much on my own and outnumbered. And then sends it.
There is no response as expected. That adding advise is effectively like firing off a flare on a starless night. That advise and the fact that you use terminology, even as illogical as someone who may have intercepted would see that without the knowledge of what the kindred are, it is effectively firing off a signal flare that's bright enough to light the entirety of your area as if it's midday. There, across the city, are several immediate checkdowns of who's close, who get there, blah blah blah, so forth and so on. There is a pedal to the metal applied, and therein lies the initial problem, the the real issue, and that being, even at best speed, even at fastest speed, unless of course someone is walking distance, there's late and there's too late.
All right. Now with that done, what the hell do we do now? We can't just claw our way through there and get them. That's just gonna get us killed. Do you have anybody? Do you have anybody closer?
Yeah.
Who?
Hess doesn't know where Wineka is either, but I know he's gonna get that message at some point. Can't you think of anybody that's close enough to help?
Well, potentially, because unfortunately for you, fortunate may be the word some would use, you would not, having been friends, associates, coterie mates with Sorochi for as long as you were, you are without a shadow of a doubt aware that one of his cloak and dagger contacts is right down in Printer's Row. It's a hike of sorts from where you are down to Printer's Row, and it gives you time and distance and the opportunity of getting there and then getting back. there are ways that you could fire off a earlier warning, but again, it requires dialing back in to information you've all but locked away. There's a hotline at the occult bookstore, Benway Books, which is not far over from where you are. You can head over Grand and down to Hubbard. There's you're not sure if she's there, but Kathy Glenn's has a practice space about 6 to 15 minutes from where you are. And then, worst of all, if you go further west, if you go past where Fifth City is, out past Holman, which is another about 15-20 minutes west, you know that there's rumors that the gang group Primogen has a space, a hunting preserve over there in Garfield Park. So choices are an option, unless of course you decide to go north, because, well, being as you're not far off of Western, you take Western down to Genghis's hunting domain, the space where everyone knows he operates when he's masquerading as a man of the people. You know what they say, any port in a storm.
How far is the address for the Menelaans?
They are not far from Hyde Park, so you could head south and east towards the lake, but they're almost the opposite end. Like they're the other side of the river, basically.
Tess will go over all the people that popped into her head to see if he has an opinion as to which direction to go in. The closest is probably Kathy Glenn, but I don't quite know how much of a help she would be. We have to do something though, because if I just let this stand, I will lose everything I got recently back. Plus all those fucking people in there.
Yeah. He kind of looks back towards the building. I see this as a scorched earth scenario. I'd go for the hunting grounds and see if we can't get ourselves some very vicious muscle. But that's just me.
Okay. I will. Did you bring a car? Because I guess I have to leave Miriam's here. We took her car here.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I got a vehicle.
leave her stranded. Okay, let's go get some help. Hopefully by the time we get back, they'll be here too. Shit. This is a really bad situation.
Yeah, incredibly so. Let's just hope that it doesn't get any worse. That's a jinx, isn't it?
It is. Because inside, Miriam, watching the magic of birth, watching the magic of unlife crawl across the body, metastasizing the blood into Vitae, is affirming in the magic of what you are. There is something neither good nor evil in watching it happen. This person is giving a second opportunity at existence, and through their vitae, each of these mortals, each of these kindred who have never had the opportunity of sampling kindred vitae, are able to do so safely There's no long-ranging risk. And as the sacrament reaches your hand, your small bit of kindred magic, what is it that you do? Do you partake?
Yeah, she'd probably take a little sip.
A little sip.
Little sip.
Well, so the entirety of it, because there's just enough there to get the full taste of it. There's just enough dark magic, the kiss happening for it to take root and shape. And the moment it touches your lips, as beautiful, as immortal, affirming as all that is blood can be, the magic of the kiss, this is a close second and a competitor to it. It is a perfect balance between vitae and blood through the full punch and suffering of the kiss and something else, something mellower, something slightly sweeter and melon fresh. And taking it down, you're able to tap fully into the epiphany happening around you. Would you be so kind, if you are attempting to resist, go ahead and roll your stamina and resolve versus your bane +2. If not, Miriam is swept along into the holy holy of this moment.
You see, with Miriam's self-control that she's very much prides herself on, you said Bane +2 for difficulty?
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah.
She keeps from giving in. She holds herself at arm's distance from all that is happening around her. So she's able to catalog the weight of the feeling. She's able to understand what options of heaven it offers her. She's able to ignore its coaxing and cajoling. And she watches as the sacrifices, as the last bit of sacrament is passed, the gifted mortal who is on the precipice of completely crossing over from death into a second facsimile of life is beheaded. The shock is muted at best. Many have started rationalizing this as just a bad trip. Many have begun rationalizing this as that is an impossibility. I don't associate with criminals. There's no way that this could be happening in front of me. Others, the knowing kindred, laugh at the joke of it all. They understand that while that particular sacrifice is granted the embrace and grace of heaven, they will not be. And then the deacons, the assistive members of the congregation, denoted by arm bands or leg bands, or some who are actually still wearing clothes, begin dragging the carcasses off. The pieces one full horse's head gifted to the donor who's donated the most in tithing to the organization. A memento, a cherished item. The next highest donor provided a cut of steak from the side of the initial sacrifices. Others glomming on and touching and enjoying the moment, their bits of blessings from on high, from Lilith herself, as they are granted a measure of strength and stamina they didn't have a moment before, giving them the opportunity to awash in blood and viscera to continue their oblations, to continue pursuing and chasing this high feast day, attempting to create life, or practicing to try to create life all around you. Claire moves between the frolicking members, laying on of hands here, indulging and encouraging there, offering a quiet whispered word. She pauses, looks you over, a soft smile. And then she continues on. In her shadow, Alexander moves behind her silently as they make their way, instead of out, around, and through circuitously all of the gathered congregants, all of the worshipful, and then off through one of the side alcoves near the front door, leaving you and the gathered kindred in the midst of all of these donors as they while away their moment, literally giving to each other until it hurts. And while that's happening, Aaron and Hestia make it to the Garfield Park. It's a relatively huge park, small. You can drive through it in 4 minutes if you go completely around. But, and as kindred, you know, much like predators in the wild, nearer and nearer to the waterways, the lagoon that runs and wriggles through the center of the park, would be where the best hunting would be where a predator who made this their territory would more than likely associate and hang out and stalk, because there's the conservatory with its huge glass dome. There are the many jogging paths on that side of the park, and well, you all make your way there. The question is, do you make your way to the jogging paths that run solely by the lagoon, or do you move towards the conservatory building itself, the field park house?
If he's out here doing the good old stalking and some such, I imagine the jogging paths would be closer to his actual location.
So which one, which path, near the lagoon or near the field house?
Your thoughts on this, Hestia? I'm leaning lagoon.
Lagoon. Water.
All right. Lagoon it is.
The only reason to ask, and the real, not just practical, tactical aspects of it, is because near the field house, there are more lights. Near the field house, there's the element of those who would feel safer jogging at night or what have you. And yet, those near the lagoon are more scenic. They're more of a quiet place to have an interlude or what have you. So as you all make your way out into the darkness of the park, following the jogging path that takes you near the Central Park portion of the park, there between Schrader, where the lagoon winds and wends its way closer to Washington Boulevard. You two stand out to anyone with heightened senses, to anyone who is predisposed towards death, which all kindred are. So as you all exit the vehicle, stained though you are quickly intercepted by Rosa. The challenge is immediate. She doesn't say it, but it's an impossibility for Hesher to not know that the reputation of the shelter for dispatching Primogen members is not in full consideration. And as you decide on how best to greet a Primogen member who understands that you are a hound and yet your reputation precedes you, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely bit of play, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.